What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and we did it. We got my buddy over to 1,000 subscribers. So, as promised, here is his Drytron deck profile. The whole premise of this deck is to skip your opponent's turn, but obviously there are backup plans if you get stopped or you don't see the combo. I do want to say that this deck is technically 10-0. He went 6-0 at one of our locals and 4-0 at another one of our locals. So he's he's got a pretty good record with this deck, and we get a pretty big locals, usually about 40 or more people. So let's go ahead and show you guys the deck profile. So we are playing 3 copies of Alpha, 3 copies of Zeta, and 3 copies of Gamma, and 3 copies of Delta. So the idea here is to just max out on all of your Drytron names for the maximum amount of consistency that you can possibly have, and honestly it does sound and feel very solid, so I can see why he does it. I definitely think that it is correct for this type of variant where the idea is to lock your opponent out of playing. You want every possible option that you can, and this maxes out on those options. Then we have only 1 copy of Diviner, and the reason that we are playing the 1 Diviner is because the backup plan, if you can't get your full combo, is to go into your Vanity's Ruler, so you can't use your normal on Diviner if you have to use your normal on the Vanity's Ruler. But we also are playing 2 copies of Herald of the Orange Light. With Ben 10 back to 2, we are able to search more fairies, so this does give us a little bit of interaction as well. We can usually guarantee that we get at least 1 negate. And then the guy himself, Vanity's Ruler, again, this is your backup if you can't get your full combo, just so that you still lock your opponent out of playing. Then on to the Cyber Angels. We are playing 1 copy of Natasha, 1 copy of Ida 10, and both of the Ben 10. Obviously this came back to 2, you wouldn't play any less. This is just so that you can use your Natasha the maximum number of times without sacrificing consistency, so having 3 available Natashas is definitely very good. And then the combo piece himself, a Morphactor Pain, the Imagination Drake Overlord. If you didn't watch the combo tutorial, this is the first step to skipping your opponent's entire turn, because on summon it says that it is able to, or it makes your opponent skip their next main phase 1, so without their main phase 1, like I said, first step to the combo. But aside from that, if you leave it on the field, it actually just negates all extra deck type monsters except for Link monsters. It's from an era from before Links were made, so it doesn't list that in its text, but your opponent's effects of the extra deck types are going to be negated if he stays up on the field. Not as important because the combo links him away. All you really need him for is the skipping the main phase, but just keep that in mind in case you're backed into a corner. And then for the last ritual monster we have is the Drytron Meteonis Draconids. This is just a really big body, a quick effect to disrupt your opponent on their turn. Again, just kind of another option if your main line of play is not either available or gets stopped. Onto our spells, we are playing 1 Foolish Burial and 1 Called by the Grave. Now there is another one of that I have, and that is Drytron Fafnir. But in his deck profile, he actually played 2 of this. His deck was 41 cards. This is going to just be 40. The only reason I don't have a second, well, there's 2 reasons, is personally I just don't like it, but I can see why he does it. And the most important reason is I just didn't have a second. So if you want to play his list card for card, it is going to be 2 of the Fafnir. Then he played 2 copies of Meteonis Drytron. I said in my profile that I think this is correct. There's way too many removal effects in the format right now, so I'd rather have the 2 and be able to continue playing through one of those removal cards. I don't think that 1 is correct. Then we have 3 copies of Cyber Emergency. Obviously we just want to search our Drytron names. 3 copies of Nova, because Nova seems to be the starter for most of the combos these days. You no longer really want Alpha Zeta, you want Nova and another name. Then we have 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. This is pretty much the only way the deck can guarantee it's able to go second into these big boards that, you know, your opponent just sets up and you're no longer allowed to play. This helps with that. 3 copies of Preparation of Rites. This is something that I mentioned in my profile, that I don't necessarily think you need 3 of this card, just because it gets dead after the first turn, but I can understand wanting 3. It's one of those like consistency turn 1 cards, but it just sucks when you open it later turns, but I can understand it. And finally, we have the Thunder of Ruler. This is the second piece of the full skip turn combo, because what you're going to do is skip their main phase with the Amorphactor, skip their battle phase with the Thunder of Ruler that we're able to essentially search because we have Beatrice and Nightmare Griffin, and if they skip their main phase and their battle phase, they cannot conduct their main phase 2, making their turn only consist of draw phase, standby phase, and end phase, which pretty much an FTK in and of itself. Let's show you guys the extra. So here's what we have for the extra deck. We are playing the one copy of Natis. This is for the Diviner. If you don't use it on the turn 1 to send your Herald, you can use it on turn 2 to just kind of send the Natis and get a spot removal. Then he also played one copy of Albion, and this is because he's maxing out on his Natashas, being able to use it 3 times instead of just the typical 2 that decks are using it these days. He wanted to be able to steal a Mirror Jade and then actually use the Mirror Jade effect. So he had an extra spot, he put in the Albion, and honestly I think that's a really good idea. Then he has the 1 Herald of the Arclight, we've got 2 of the Drytron Mu Beta, and then we have our Beatrice and our Zeus, and that is it for the XYZ lineup. On to the links, we've got 1 Link Karibo and 1 Anima as our level 1s. The Link Karibo is typically part of the turn 1 combo. The Anima is a later game. If your opponent doesn't play around it, it can just be a big threat. Then we have our IP Masquerina and the Unicorn, pretty much just typical combo. You're normally going into the Unicorn off the IP. Then onto our Link 4s, we have the access code for OTK purposes, the Appaloosa again for just a different line of play, the Griffin, which is incredibly important, that way we can go ahead and reset the Thunder of Ruler, and finishing things up, the Underworld Goddess, just because it's very good spot clear for your opponent's side of the field, gets over things that normally you can't get over, especially that Adignister monster, because Adignisters are seeing a lot more play, but that is going to be the extra deck. And there you guys have it. That is going to be the 10-0 undefeated Drytron skip your entire turn deck profile. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you check out Yu-Gi-Oh! Rookie. Like I said, this is his profile. We got him up to 1,000 subs, that way we could share it, so good job on that, guys, but you know the deal. If you liked it, subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, and maybe consider supporting me on Patreon, because for just $1, you can support the channel in a way that I would never be able to tell you how much I fully appreciate. Not to mention, I am still looking for donations for my Nationals Fund, so if you would like, my Cash App and my PayPal will be on the screen. Please do not feel pressured, because I love all of my subscribers equally, regardless of whether or not you're able to donate. It would just be nice to get a little bit of help. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.